With the VIX finally closing above 30, the stage was set for the bulls, and they haven't disappointed. To quantify the best edges in today's REKTelligence report. As a friendly reminder, everything in today's show is for informational purposes only. There is no investment advice given. All right, let's get into the show. Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Dave. This is the Edge Report, where I quantify specific opportunities in stocks, ETFs, crypto, and more. Today, I talk about many stocks inside the NDX, NASDAQ 100, which met entry according to the logic I showed in Monday's All Markets report. Let's get right into it. A quick review of two charts from Monday's All Markets report. The first on screen, the SPX or SP 500 closed 4.5% below its 20 MA, and with the volatility index finally closing above 30 heading into the weekend. And this is a bullish edge, 1990 to the present. Buying the S&P with a 10-day hold with these two conditions, 49 instances, 69.39% profitable. That's pretty good hit rate. Profit factor 2.263, excellent. And you can see on the left, lots more stats, but REKTelligence score 59.9. That's the summary score taking into account all of these dimensions. It's really an excellent score, basically 60. I like to see higher, right, for my trades. I like to see 75 and up. You usually get that with individual stocks. We're getting to that in this report in just a moment. So statistically significant, validated, that's crucial. Pretty good REKTelligence score, decent edge, pretty short time hold, 10 days. Let's look at the same with the NASDAQ. NDX here, same conditions. We see the R score is 55.6. Again, it's statistically vetted. And there were 59 instances. Profitability or hit rate is 66.1% and profit factor 1.998. So just a little bit south of where the SPX stats were, which is unusual. Normally it's the reverse. Traders, crypto is not a wild, unruly market. It's an asset class with 500% more time for price discovery and opportunity. My new course, Crypto Trader's Edge, is now live through Algo Advantage, one of the top quant pods and academies out there. A full systematic framework, backtesting, strategy development, validation, real edges with full code, not hype. Links in the description or head to my Substack at REKTelligence. Now back to the show. It's the individual stock names with these same two conditions where things get very interesting. Now I have a slightly different exit here. This is not just a simple 10 days. This is an exit upon a close above the 5-day simple moving average. Very basic. We can see checkpoints, 71 instances, hit rate 78.87%, very solid, almost 80. We see profit factor 2.456, and the REKTelligence score 69.4. Of course, statistically vetted. That is crucial. I don't trade without that. Very solid in checkpoint. Pretty nice equity curve. Let's move on. Here we've got VeriSign, VRSN. We see 80 instances, hit rate 76.25%. Profit factor 3.961 on 80 trades. That is very solid. Look at that equity curve, really a thing of beauty. And the R score, 79, of course, statistically significant. Intel, we see 89 instances, profit factor 5.35, hit rate 74.1, and we can see average win is just south of 4%. Average days in trade with this exit is just 2.9. This is a pretty quick trade. And the average percent per day, 0.759. That's a pretty nice per day percentage on average over time. And of course, statistically significant. Let's look at another. Here's Adobe, same conditions. We see 94 total instances, and this is 1990 to the present again. You can see the upper right-hand date says 1986, but the VIX did not exist then. So if it says a different date, it means 1990 to the present, or if the stock only goes back to 2003 or whatever, that's the inception date for that particular stock. All right, so 94 instances, hit rate here 73.4%, profit factor very solid at 3.761, and you can see that the average win 4.66%, and the average days in trade is just 2.7, very quick, and therefore the average percent per day here is pretty efficient, 0.864%. R score 80.2, and again, of course, statistically significant data here. Really a nice looking chart. Now I'm going to go a bit more into depth with the next one, Microsoft. Okay, let's take Microsoft here and run its data through its paces. Before I do that, using an app I created called Strategy Analyzer, let's just take a quick look at this chart as we've been doing. 72 instances, hit rate over 80%, profit factor 5.02, beautiful looking equity curve, average percent per day 0.899, very short-term hold on average at 2.9, and the R-score 81.8. This is a very solid looking edge. But again, let's go deeper. So how this works with Strategy Analyzer is in TradingView, you simply can export the Excel data. It takes about 1 or 2 seconds. You just got to know where to go. Boom, it exports, downloads right to your computer automatically. And then the Strategy Analyzer app simply takes that data in. You just upload it. Again, takes about 2 seconds. And there are a lot of tabs here. I'm only going to show a few. The overview here we see, and we've covered a lot of these stats. It has some extra stats, by the way, that aren't available in TradingView. But let's go on and take a look at statistical significance. Now, there are 2 tabs or 2 ways that this is done in the app. This is one of them using a standard t-test. And we can see here that this is statistically significant with 2 entry conditions, which you specify upon upload. And the p-value is 0.00. 0% chance, statistically speaking, that these results are due to randomness. That is what you want to see, the highest rating, essentially. Now, risk and drawdown, we can go through many of these metrics. There's value at risk, conditional VAR, the Ulcer Index, and traditional drawdown definition. One of the absolute best ways to vet any edge is through Monte Carlo analysis. This is where you scramble the original order of the trades as many times as you like. I've got many settings here. I'm going to choose 1,000. That means I'm going to get 1,000 alternate trade histories, and that's going to show me different confidence intervals, as you'll see in a minute. So best observed, and at the very bottom, worst observed. Those are the luckiest and unluckiest runs out of all 1,000. The top row, best observed, is the first percentile. That's really just for fun to see what's actually possible, but that's not really useful as a trader who has to think about risk and so forth and robustness. Median, this is somewhat useful because the median result, that middle result in all 1,000 simulations in this case, that usually resembles the actual order of the trades of the original backtest. Realistic downside and tail risk I would consider most useful here. These are stress test measures. So in 1,000 runs, the 95th percentile is the 950th worst outcome. And you can see here, it's still 245.86% cumulative return, max drawdown, negative 18.68. Profit factor is still 2.78. Sure, it's not the 5 we saw of the original, and it's not the 4.7 of the median result, but when you stress test it, it's still pretty good profit factor at 2.78. That's hard to argue with. Tail risk is now the 99th percentile, and worst observed is literally the unluckiest run, as I mentioned. So you can also see these on a scatter plot or a distribution of simulations, and this shows all 1,000 runs. By the way, because it's a log scale, just a technical factor, if there's a negative result, it can't display on this, but then the app will tell you how many negative runs there were, and so you can get a number and you can get a percentage of how many were not even profitable. In this case, you can see at the bottom, all 1,000 simulated paths were profitable, no paths excluded from the log scale plot. Obviously, that's good. You can also see a distribution of max drawdown here. You can see the blue dashed line, that's the actual original backtest drawdown, and the 95th percentile, stressing that metric, you can see falls into a different bucket here. But there are no far outliers on this to the right where it blows up and just becomes too dangerous to trade. So again, a great feature of the Strategy Analyzer app. This is coming out very soon, and I'll show you how you can get on the list. All right, guys, if you are interested in getting on the list for Strategy Analyzer, again, it's coming out very soon. Just go to my website, tradingfromparadise.com. Scroll a little bit down the page. You will see Lock in My Rate. You can read about the details there. Thanks for watching today's Edge Report. I will see you again in Monday's All Markets Report. And of course, you can check out my notes in Substack where I'm active and make market commentary. And for now, trade smart, live well, and cheers from the Caribbean.